Well, good morning, everybody. We'll go ahead and get started here. Good morning, and welcome to those of you that have just joined, and welcome. Thank you all for joining in this morning. What we're going to be doing this morning is we're going to briefly go over some financial aid concepts, and as well as that, we're going to look at some FAQs that we have or questions that we've received from real students. And so these are actually real FAQs that we receive in our inbox. So you'll see screenshots of messages that we or emails that we do receive from students. So we'll go ahead and get started here. Um, First things first, we're going to take a look at the agenda for today's session. We're going to look at college costs. So we're just going to briefly touch on that. We're also going to look at financial aid funding to figure out what can you receive. We're also going to look at the application process. Hopefully by now, most of you would have already began the application process, but if you have not, it's not too late. We're also going to look at some of the timelines. When should you begin the process, or when should you actually complete the process? In addition to that, we're going to look at those FAQs, like I mentioned a little bit earlier. So, first things first, when we're looking at college costs, University of West Georgia is considered a public college, uh, and we're members of the USG, is the University System of Georgia. Our tuition and fees is around $7,488 per year. That's tuition and fees. However, it does not include housing or any type of meal plan that's added on to that. But for tuition and fees alone, it is around $7,488 per year. Um, so the costs are determined by the school's legal governing board, which is USG, it's University System of Georgia. Now, as far as what your actual bill is, you can view your actual bill once you have been registered in courses by accessing one login. So hopefully by now, you should be fairly familiar with one login or the one login website. You'll simply sign into there in the search box, search bill, or you can search my bill, and a tile will come up. And in that tile, you can click my student bill. Okay. From there, that will take you to another website, and then you would choose the semester that you're wanting to look at your bill for. So, say for instance, it's fall 2020, then you would click that, and then from there, you would actually be able to see your itemized cost. You'll be able to see your tuition costs, any fees that are on your student bill. You'll also be able to see how much your housing, your residence hall costs. You'll also be able to see which meal plan you have, how much that meal plan costs. And then on the right side of that bill, if you have any financial aid that's applied to it, you'll actually be able to see the financial aid as well. Um, Keep in mind though, bills will not be generated. We're not looking into starting generating bills until the end of this month. However, you do want to check that once you're already registered in courses to see if there's anything there. Okay. So we're going to briefly look at the different types of financial aid, and there are several different types. But most of them originate from the FAFSA application, and we'll look at that near the end of this. But we're going to start with the types of financial aid. So the one that you are probably most familiar with are state funds, and this is governed by what's called the GSFC, it's the Georgia Student Finance Commission. And what they do is they manage the Hope and Zell Miller scholarship programs, as well as a few other programs they have. They have programs such as the Hero Grant, and that's a grant that they have for students whose uh, parents or the student himself work in armed services. They also have the Public Service Memorial Grant, and that's for students who may have had a parent uh, that may have, unfortunately had something happen to them while working in the not necessarily armed services, but law enforcement or something along those lines. So they do have a few other programs. So you can check out the GSFC website. Just go to georgiafutures.org to look at some of those programs. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to touch on Hope and Zell Miller Scholarship. I do want to note, however, that the Hope scholarship amounts for 2021 are still to be determined. We're hoping to actually have those or know about those amounts by the end of this month. Hopefully, by then we actually know, what exactly Hope award amounts are going to look like for this upcoming year. Now, if you do want to see the Hope amounts once they actually are posted, you can actually go to this website I have on the screen right here on your right. And it's the https // apps at gsfc.org. Take a picture of that. Like I said, you can go there. The amounts are not going to be there right now. However, near the end of this month, you should be able to see the scholarship award amounts. Okay. Now, I can talk about the award amounts for 2019, 2020. 2020, is fall 2020 through summer 2021. Okay. Um, 1920 or 2019, 2020, these are the financial 8 years. That is fall 2019 through summer 2020. So the award amounts that students received for this financial 8 year were $167 per credit hour for Hope Scholarship. And so that for most students, that was a total of $2,505 per semester if they enrolled in 15 credit hours. Now, there's a huge misconception that students believe that they must be enrolled at least 12 or 15 hours. They must be enrolled at least full time to receive Hope Scholarship. That's not necessarily the case. Students can actually enroll in lesser hours and still receive Hope and Zell Miller Scholarship funds. However, it is recommended that you heed and stick to the advice that's given to you by your academic advisor. So, if your academic advisor is recommending that you take 12 to 15 or 15 credit hours per semester, then you probably should listen to the advice because they are the professional when it does come to that. So, I just want to clarify that. Um, Now, as far as this $2,505 per semester, um, it covers about 90% of tuition, not tuition and fees, not housing and meal plan, but about 90% of tuition. And so the 2,505 does help. It does help. So here it goes again. It said does not pay all costs. Rates are subject to change each year. So, like I was saying, we don't know the rates for the upcoming year yet. We hope to have those by the end of May. So we'll see where that goes. Now, most of y'all are probably already familiar with the eligibility process for Hope Scholarship, but I'll briefly touch on it just quickly. Just this is a 3.0 high school GPA across core academic subjects. And what they mean by core is they're looking at English, math, science, social studies, foreign languages. They're not looking at any elective courses or anything of that sort. They're just looking at those core courses. Now, your GPA is determined by GSFC. What happens is your high school, once you've graduated, your high school electronically sends a copy of your transcript to GSFC, which is the Georgia Student Finance Commission. GSFC does their magic, and then GSFC sends us, the financial aid office, a notice. They basically tell us, yes, the student's eligible, or no, they're not eligible. And then, depending on what they tell us, we put the funding on your account, or we offer it on your account, and you can see it um, on your student award information in one login. Now, the 3.0 must be maintained in college too. That's very important. A lot of students don't realize you, Hope Scholarship can be lost in college. So when you're enrolled, even once you've enrolled in college, you want to make sure you're doing the right thing to keep your grades up and keep Hope Scholarship eligibility. Hope once it's lost in college, it can be regained once. However, once it's been regained one time, it cannot be regained again. So just make sure you're keeping that in mind. Okay. Let me go here. The and then of course there's a requirement for 4 academic rigor courses. Usually students take these courses without even knowing them, and so usually you're eligible for this. And you don't have to worry about asking anybody, did you take 4 rigor courses? So don't necessarily worry about that. So let's talk about Zell Miller Scholarship. We're going to kind of change direction here. Zell Miller Scholarship is similar to Hope, but it pays 100% of tuition. So fees are not included. It pays 100% of tuition. I should have had a tuition chart up here to show you all the difference, but we'll you can check westga.edu and search Bursar, or you can search Burr's office and you can look at tuition and fee charts for 2021. And you'll see that on the chart, you have the tuition, which is the amount for the courses. And then there are a few additional fees under there for things that, such as transportation fee, or these other different types of fees that are essential to ensuring that the students are well supported at the university. Now, let's talk about Zell Miller. So, Zell Miller Scholarship, you need at least a 3.7 high school GPA on core academic subjects to get Zell Miller Scholarship eligibility. Okay. And you have to have at least a 1200 SAT or 26 ACT score. And we'll talk about that in a few minutes and how COVID 19 has impacted that We'll talk about that. You must maintain at least a 3.3 in college to keep Zell Miller scholarship. Okay. Hope need to keep a 3.0 in college to keep it. For Zell Miller, you have to keep a 3.3 to keep it in college. Um, not Students cannot gain Zell Miller scholarship eligibility in college if they weren't eligible when they graduated from high school. So one thing I didn't touch on was Hope Scholarship. If a student graduates from high school, we're going back to Hope Scholarship. If a student um, graduates from high school and they're not eligible for Hope Scholarship when they graduate, they can still gain it while they're enrolled in college. In fact, I've known quite a few students do that, where they graduate from high school, maybe they had a 2.8 or a 2.6 or 2.9, or they're really close. And then once they enroll in college, what happens is once you've reached 30 attempted hours, we check your GPA, and if you meet all of the other requirements for Hope Scholarship and you have a 3.0 Hope GPA, then you'll receive Hope Scholarship for your next semester. So just keep that in mind. We'll go into further detail about all of this stuff when you sign up for orientation. We'll have orientation sessions as well. So you'll see me or other representatives from my office with Zoom orientation sessions. And we'll go into even further detail about Hope and Zell Miller Scholarship Awards and the process for Hope and Zell Miller Scholarship. Now, let's talk about COVID-19 and how that has impacted Zell Miller Scholarship. Okay. So as a result of COVID-19, a variety of students or a bunch of students weren't able to take the SAT and ACT tests. As you know, the SAT and ACT tests are required for Zell Miller scholarship eligibility. So GSFC, Georgia Student Finance Commission, Georgia Futures, have recognized that, and they've launched a website. You can get the link right there, take a picture of that link, or you can visit it. And they have a few solutions for students that may have had um, may have not been able to take the ACT or the ACT test for Zell Miller scholarship eligibility. So you can call them also. This is their phone number. And they do have options for those students. Okay, so make sure if you're one of those students that has a 3.7 high school GPA and you were in the running for Zell Miller scholarship eligibility and then you didn't get the chance to take the SAT or the ACT, please check that link and give GSFC a call, and they have some solutions for you. Okay, so we'll go to the next slide. So as far as award amounts for Zell Miller Scholarship are still to be determined as well. We're hoping that those will be released by the end of this month. When they are released, you'll be able to access them on this same website right here. And we'll also update your student award information as well to reflect the amounts if they do change. Hopefully they don't. I haven't seen them change in the past few years, but who knows? So we're going to kind of switch gears here and look at the types of aid, and we're going to look at federal aid. So um, the reason we have federal aid, and this is kind of a history lesson, if you say, is because the Title IV of the Higher Education Act. Title IV of the Higher Education Act, I believe, was passed in 1965, if I remember correctly. And that act is what created financial aid, or it created federal financial aid. It created the federal financial aid program. It's governed by the United States Department of Education. So we as a university, and my office in particular, um, we are required we have to stick to a set of guidelines and regulations, and we have to just make sure that we're doing and awarding aid in a certain way as defined by what the Department of Education tells us to do. So as far as eligibility for these programs, the number one thing is to complete a FAFSA application. That's the first process. That's the first step. The first step is to complete that FAFSA application. Um, the FAFSA application applies students for a federal Pell Grant, which is based on financial need, and also applies them for what's called FSCLG grant. Really long name is Federal Supplemental Educational Opportunity Grant, and that one's based on extreme financial need. And additionally, it applies students for federal work study, and we'll go into detail on a few of these in a few minutes. It also applies students for federal student loans, and we'll look at what those look like here as well. So let's begin with federal Pell Grant. So federal Pell Grant is based on the student's EFC. The EFC is calculated during the completion of the FAFSA application. So the EFC is based upon information on the student's bill, such as, I'm sorry, the BFC is based on the FAFSA information, such as the income for the parent, student income, or both, or whichever one is earning income. It's also based on the number of people in the household, the number of people that are in college in the household. Based on those things, the FAFSA application has a formula that creates what's called the EFC. Okay. Now, the EFC, although the EFC is abbreviation for expected family contribution, the EFC is not the amount that the university or anybody expects you to contribute towards the student's education. I know that is very conflicting. They almost need another name for EFC, but I think that's the name that they were to come up with, this expected family contribution. We'll look at what that means here in a few minutes. So the EFC is basically an index number, and we'll look at that in a few minutes. Now, as far as federal Pell Grant is concerned, the amount that a student receives is also based on their enrollment. So if we look at this right here, this is a federal Pell Grant chart. Um, this chart, as you can see, let me see if I can get the mouse on here. So as you can see, based on the EFC that a student receives at the end of the FAFSA application, they fall on this chart. So say, for instance, a student completed a FAFSA application and their EFC was 2,500. Okay, so if we find 2,500 on this chart, there's 2,500, and the student's going to enroll in 12 or more credit hours. Okay, so at that point, then we also know that the student would receive for federal Pell Grant $3,895 for the year. And so that amount gets split in half between fall and spring. Say, for instance, the EFC is zero. Then the federal Pell Grant award amount is higher, and the student receives more per year and per semester. You can also see here as the enrollment decreases. So say, for instance, the students enrolled in 9 credit hours, then even with the zero EFC, they receive a little bit less in federal Pell Grant. So you can kind of see the trend here. Lower the EFC, the higher the Pell Grant award. Higher the EFC, the lower the Pell Grant award. And then there's a cutoff right here. So at 5712 EFC, Pell Grant award is zero. So 5712 and up is zero for the Pell Grant award. So this is how Pell Grant awarding works. This is where the EFC comes into play. So I hope that kind of makes sense, and I hope that explains everything. If you have any questions, you can feel free to email us at finaid@westga.edu. finaid@westga.edu, and just let us know if you have any questions about the federal Pell Grant program. Now, a couple of years ago, about a year ago, maybe it was 2 years ago, the federal Pell Grant did not used to. It wasn't Students could not always receive federal Pell Grant in the summer. But now, 2 years ago, they added provisions for students to be able to receive federal Pell Grant funds in the summer as well. So, although you only see this fall spring split right here, the student can also receive federal Pell Grant in the summer as well. So, say for instance, you take classes for fall, you take classes for spring 2021, and then in the summer you're like, maybe I want to take a class or two. So you could, if you receive eligible federal Pell Grant for fall and spring, you could also receive it for summer as well. Um, there are some stipulations. You do have to be enrolled in a certain amount of hours over the summer to receive federal Pell Grant, 6 hours. But it is an option. It is an option for students. So we'll kind of switch gears here. We'll go to the next one. Talk about the federal work study program. Federal work study program is absolutely amazing program. Students, you complete the FAFSA application. On the FAFSA application, it asks you, do I want to be considered for federal, or do you want to be considered for federal work studies? Yes, no, and I think the other answers maybe or something like that. Um, Based on your answer to that, we check your eligibility, or your EFC is checked for federal Pell Grant. I'm sorry, for federal work study eligibility. Now, you'll see a federal work study offer on your student bill, and one of the Q and A's is actually going to address that. So I'm not going to touch on that just yet. Okay, but you'll see that federal work study offer on your student account on one login. What it does is allow students to work on campus and be paid. The eligibility is determined by need, and students generally work about 20 hours per week, and they're paid biweekly. And the funds don't cover tuition and fees. The funds go to a savings or checkings account of the student's choice. And then, excuse me, The student uses those funds just like any other job, or you would just spend them on any types of miscellaneous expenses you may have. Car insurance, hygiene products, anything of that nature. So it's just like a regular job. Um, so we're gonna look at loans real quickly. Um, Federal student loans, their loans are only offered on students' accounts, and that's because we realize that not every student wants or may need to accept a student loan to cover their tuition costs. Now, student loans, there are three different types. You have the federal student loan program, which is a direct loans. Those are the loans that the student is automatically offered when they complete the FAFSA application. And so those are the loans that you'll probably see on the student's award information. You'll probably see a subsidized and unsubsidized loan. Some students may only see this unsubsidized loan. It just really depends on the student's EFC. In addition, some students will also see Parent Plus loan award information. So the Parent Plus loan is a loan in the parent's name for the student's account. And we do have a question. I apologize. I did not address question. I did not address questions. So what I'll do is I'll answer questions at the end. So I'll answer the questions at the end. Now, uh, there are also private loans as well. In some cases, students may want to receive a loan from a bank that they bank with. So students could apply for a loan from that bank and receive it from the bank, as opposed to them receiving the federal loan. So it really depends on what the student chooses to do. Let me go to the next slide here. Yeah, if you have any questions, you can go ahead and submit them now, and then I'll get to all the questions at the end. Let's look at the federal student loans. So federal student loans, they have annual limits, and as you can see, the annual limits are based on the student's grade level. So as a student matriculates throughout their college enrollment, the annual loan limit, federal annual loan limit increases. Okay. These annual loan limits are observed across the nation. So a student could be, and this is for the student's subsidized and unsubsidized loans. So a student can enroll anywhere else, and they have the maximum federal loan award amount that they could receive are would be either 55, 65, or 7500, depending on their grade level. And then of course, on top of that, the student will be awarded a Parent Plus loan offer. Parent Plus loan cannot be accepted in the student's account. The student, however, can accept their own loans in their account, and we'll look at that in a few of the Q and A's as well. There are lifetime limits, so for loans as well. So that's the aggregate or lifetime limit for students enrollment. So there are two different loan types for students. Students have the subsidized loan offer, and they also have an unsubsidized loan offer. Difference between the two. Let's talk about the similarities first. So the first thing first is that these are both federal student loans. Okay, um, and repayment for these loans is not mandatory while the student's enrolled. In fact, repayment is deferred even 6 months after the student uh, enroll is no longer enrolled. So as long as the student is enrolled, then the repayment on these loans is not mandatory. Once the student is no longer enrolled, they get a 6 month grace period, and then after that 6 months, the repayment begins on those loans. Okay. Um, Now the difference between the two loans, however, is that the subsidized loan interest on it does not begin to accrue until after the student, 6 months after the student is enrolled. So, however, on the unsubsidized loans, interest begins accruing the moment the loans fully dispersed to the student's account. So, say for instance, the student accepts a subsidized loan for $1,000. Then, when they graduate, they're repaying just the principal, just the $1,000 loan. They accept the unsubsidized loan for $1,000. When these are just hypothetical numbers, the 1,000. When they graduate, they're repaying 1,000 plus any interest that's accrued over the course of that loan. We do recommend, and we do tell students you can make payments on your loans while you're enrolled in college. And so we actually do recommend it. Now, the way federal student loans work is we, the university, offer the loans on your account. If you decide you want the loan, you log into one login, and you search My Financial Aid. From there, you choose the correct aid year. So it'd be 2020, 2021 for you. and then you click accept award offer. You accept how much you want to. When you accept it, you complete a few other requirements. The loan is placed on your account. When the loan is placed on your account, your are assigned to what's called federal student loan servicer. Okay, these are the servicers right here. Your loan could be assigned to any one of these services. Servicers manage repayment for your loans on behalf of the federal government. So your loan is assigned to a servicer, and that servicer is the company that you contact when you decide you want to begin repaying the loans, or when you are required to begin repaying the loans. So that's the way federal student loans work. Um, just to kind of give you an idea on that. So I think we're doing okay on time. We got good. The application process, of course, you complete the FAFSA application on studentaid.gov. Quick tip: always use the data retrieval tool. It makes the process a lot easier, makes it cleaner, and it reduces the chance that there are any type of errors in anything on the FAFSA application. The FAFSA application is available October 1st of every year, and it must be completed annually. So October 1st of this year, you'll be completing your FAFSA application for next fall. So you'll be completing your FAFSA application for your sophomore year. So let's look at the FAQs. This is my favorite part of this presentation, because we're looking at real questions that we get from students, screenshots. Of course, we hit the students' personal identifying information, but this is my favorite part of this presentation. So let's go ahead and get started. So here's a quick question. Student said, "Good evening. I just applied. I filled out my FAFSA on April 2nd. I'm seeing that the fall 2020 FAFSA deadline was April 1st. Does this mean I don't qualify to receive any financial aid for the fall?" And so to answer that question, our deadline is actually July 1st. Um, April 1st is the soft deadline for us, but our hard deadline is July 1st. Students that submit their applications and documents by the July 1st deadline are guaranteed to be awarded prior to the first fall fee payment deadline. Um, the first fall fee payment deadline is still to be determined. Typically, that deadline is the last week of July. And we'll look at what you're going to want to do is you go to westj.edu, search Scoop, SCOOP, and you can see every deadline for the university. You're going to want to favorite this website or monitor it to see. So when that deadline is posted on there, you'll know the fee payment deadline. Now, I do want to note that we process and award information throughout the year too. So, on July 2nd, we don't, after July 1st, we're not going to cut students off and say we're not receiving any more FAFSA applications. That's just not going to happen. We continue to process them even after July 1st. It's just that after July 1st, we can't guarantee that they'll be processed and awarded by the fee payment deadline, which is the last week of July. So make sure you get all of your FAFSA information to us by July 1st. That should be your date. Here's another question. It says, "I completed my FAFSA back in January and selected UWG as a recipient of my information. I got an email on 225 saying I have not turned in a FAFSA for the upcoming school year. Do I need to do something else to get this to you?" So we do see this often. Always make sure that you've included our school code on your FAFSA application. So make sure you included 001601, or you can just select the University of West Georgia on your application, um, to make sure we actually get your application. If our school code is not on your FAFSA application, then we'll never receive it. So if you're unsure, you can actually go look at your SAR, your student aid report, or you can just log back into the FAFSA application and view your school's tab, view the school selection tab, and make sure that we're on there, so we can actually get that application. Okay. Next question says, "To whom it may concern, I see EFC at the end of my FAFSA application. What does this number mean for my financial aid?" So I briefly touched on this earlier, but this is a real Q&A, real question we get. EFC is an abbreviation for expected family contribution. Like I said earlier, this is not what we expect your family to pay for college. The number is just used to place you on that Pell Grant chart, to determine if you're eligible for Pell or not. And it's also used for some need-based scholarships. It's used for a calculation for federal work study and subsidized loan as well, but that's a little more detail, and we'll go into that more in the orientation session. How will I know how much I get from fast food? We get this question a lot. We do get this question a lot. So the way you know how much you get is you get an email. So my office, we send emails to students my.westga.edu email address. We send those emails. The email is titled. There's the title of the email. You can go to your Gmail account and search congratulations and see if you see the email. The email is congratulations, your financial aid award for 2020. 2021 is ready. That's the email title. That email, you click it, it will contain steps for how you can view your awards in one login. The amount of aid that you're awarded is dependent upon the information on your FAFSA application. Loans are split between fall and spring semester, and they're offered between fall and spring semester. And I guess I'll touch on one more thing too. I think we got time. The Your loans are offered between fall and spring semester. However, if a student's thinking they want to attend courses in the summer, so say for instance, you think you want to go to take a few classes over in summer 2021, you're going to want to accept your partial loan amount for fall and spring because we treat summer as a leftover term. So meaning anything you didn't accept between fall and spring gets re-offered back to you for summer. So once again, here's another question. It says, why am I being asked to verify my FAFSA? We get this question a lot. So in some cases, some students, they do their FAFSA application, they think they're done. But unfortunately, some students are selected for this process called verification. Now, the university, we don't do the selection for verification. We don't choose who's selected for verification. What happens is your application is automatically selected based on an algorithm that Department of Education has, and they just let us know if you're selected. When they let us know, we notify you by sending an email to your my.westga.edu email address. So if you haven't gotten it just now, that email is really important. So just make sure you're checking it. We send an email there, and then the title of that email is missing documents or something along those lines. So you could just log into your email account and search missing. And see if you have an email that tells you that you have missing documents. If you do, you're going to want to follow every step in that email and do it as soon as possible. Um, Documents must be submitted by July 1st. Students can log into one login. Here are the instructions right here. So if you think you have, or if you need to check if you have documents, additional documents you need to submit to us, log into one login, search financial aid verification. You'll log into there. You'll sign in with your first and last name, and your social security number. Just verify a few data elements, and you'll see if you have it there. Like I said, we would have emailed you anyway, so you can search to see if you have an email from us also. We will accept documents after July 1st. We just treat July 1st as kind of like a guaranteed date. So if you submit documents to us on July 2nd, we'll still receive them, we'll still take them, and we'll still process them, try to process them as quickly as possible. We just won't be able to guarantee that they will be turned around and you'll be awarded by the deadline, the fee payment deadline later in July. So July 1st is your deadline. So let's kind of switch gears here also and talk about COVID 19. So we recognize that COVID 19 has impacted different families differently. Um, Unfortunately, COVID 19 did result in a variety of different economic situations that impacted those different families differently. So if your family was impacted, meaning some type of job loss or something of that nature, you can reach out to our office and we can discuss possible options with you. I did not display or talk about any options here because really it depends on the situation. It is case by case and student by student. You can just email us at finaid@westga.edu. Let us know that your parent was impacted by COVID-19 or you, and the income on the FAFSA application may be different than what it is today. So, and just let us know that, and we'll see what we can do for you. Here's another question. It says, hello, my name is, and I would like to know how to file for a Parent Plus loan. So the Parent Plus loan is only offered on the student's account. The student can log into one login and accept their loans, but they cannot accept the Parent Plus loan. The parent, if they do decide that the Parent Plus loan is necessary to cover the cost of the student's tuition or to cover the remainder of their costs, the family can complete a separate application on studentaid.gov. We have instructions for this application on our website. So if you go to westga.edu /FINAID, that's our website. At the top of our website, there's a drop down and you'll see how to guides. You click there and it'll take you to the how to guide. Now, the the Parent Plus loan application for 2020-2021 is currently available. So if a parent is thinking that they'll need to apply for the Parent Plus loan, they can go to studentaid.gov and complete that application right now for the fall. Oh, I do want to note, you can complete the application. We won't begin processing and putting those applications on students' accounts until early June. Here's another question. It says, hello, we want to know, how does UWG's financial aid process work? Also, how does Hope and Zell Miller Scholarship affect the prospective students' financial aid? We would appreciate an info sheet. Thanks and stay safe. So here's the answer. So when you're awarded your financial aid, when it's offered to you and you get the email from us that says congratulations, you go view your financial aid. Um, all free aid is automatically accepted. So Hope or Zell Miller students, you can't receive Hope and Zell. It's either or. So Hope or Zell Miller scholarship, federal Pell Grant. If you have any institutional scholarships, all of that stuff is automatically accepted. Loans are only offered on the student's account. If a student does decide that loans are necessary, they could take action and accept those loans through one login, of course. And once the loans are accepted, they'll also have to complete a few other requirements, such as the master promissory note, which is basically a promise to repay the loan, and the interest counseling session on studentaid.gov. Now, any accepted aid is applied directly to the student's bill once the student has been registered for courses. So once you've accepted aid and you've done the master promissory note, loan interest counseling for loans or Pell Grant or wherever it may be, you don't have to do anything. You just, once you're registered, the aid is automatically applied to your account. Um, Hope and Zell Miller Scholarship pay an hourly rate. I was talking about that a little bit earlier. Rates are still to be determined for 2020-2021. You can actually view your Hope and Zell Miller Scholarships eligibility status on GeorgiaFutures.org, and I think a bunch of y'all, you're probably already familiar with that. So here's another question. It says, is there a difference in the amount of money aided if the credit hours applied are less than 12? We get this question a lot, and I kind of alluded to this one a little bit earlier also when I was talking about Hope and Zell. Yes. Yes and no. Federal Pell Grant pays out if the student's eligible for it. Federal Pell Grant pays out in full if the student is enrolled in at least 12 credit hours or more. And then Federal Pell Grant reduces based on the student's hours of enrollment. So lesser hours of enrollment equals less tuition, which also equals less of Federal Pell Grant award. So 12 in general, though, this really won't impact many of you because 9 times out of 10, you're going to be registered in at least 12 to 15 credit hours anyway. Um, Hope and Zell Miller Scholarship pays per hour. Like I was saying right here, I did say this earlier. I'll kind of repeat it again. Students do not have to be enrolled in 12 credit hours to receive Hope or Zell Miller. They can be enrolled in less. But if your academic advisor does recommend that you take 12 or 15 hours, typically 12 to 15 will put you on track to graduate in about 4 years. Then we do recommend that you stick to your academic advisor's recommendations. They are the professional. Here's another question. It says, will my federal Pell Grant be factored into my tuition before it's due? Or will I have to pay it all up front and be reimbursed? If possible, can it please be the first option? Like I was saying earlier, all student aid is applied directly to the student's bill. Um, One thing I do want to note, and this is a misconception in some places. Um, Financial may not necessarily cover 100% of your bill. It may not cover the entire bill. So if a student does have a balance after all their financial aid is applied to the bill, the balance can be paid out of pocket, or the student could use and the family could use through the university's tuition payment plan. So, say for instance, you get your student bill for the fall, and it's 8,000, and you have, say for instance, you have, let's see, $7,500 in financial aid. If you wanted to, you could use the university's tuition payment plan to take that other 500, and it splits it up over the course of a few months, and it makes the payments a little bit more manageable for that remainder. For information about payment out of pocket, and for more information about the university's payment plan, you can visit that website right there. It's westga.edu/bursar. Just check that out. Here's a question. This is a long one. So thanks for reaching out. My number is, I mainly have questions regarding federal work study. I'm not sure if there's a technical, or if there, I'm sorry, I'm not sure if that is technically financial aid department, but I will ask anyway. So it looks like I was awarded $3,000 for the fall 2020 and spring 2021 school year. When I'm placed in a job position, will that money be used to pay me? They're asking about federal work study here. Or do I have to receive the money plus my regular pay? I hope that makes sense. Secondly, who do I speak to discuss job opportunities? So, if a student has a federal work study offer on their account, you'll see $1,500 offered for fall and $1,500 offered for spring. A lot of students do think that they can receive this federal work study offer as a lump sum. So they think, I get the job, um, then I receive $1,500, or I get the job and the $1,500 is applied to my student bill. However, that is not the case. That offer on there is really just there to show you or to signify to you that you have federal work study eligibility and you can apply for federal work study jobs. The amount, like I said, is like I said here, is not applied to the student's bill or received as a lump sum. Um, it just tells you you can apply for jobs. You apply for the jobs and you work, and then from there, the money is applied to your student bill. No, it's not applied to your student bill. I'm sorry, it's applied to your student account. So if you have a checking or savings account with the bank, it goes to that bank just like any other job, and you can just you spend that money as necessary. Um, if interested, students can apply for positions on westga.edu/career services. That's where you can apply for federal work study positions. Or you could just go to westga.edu, and I believe you can search WolfWorks. That's WOLF space WORKS. You can search WolfWorks. Here's 10 tips. This is the final slide, and then we'll go into Q&A. Do your FAFSA application. That's the most important thing. All the time we have families and they say, oh, I'm not going to qualify for anything, or it's not worth my time, or still do your FAFSA application. In fact, some scholarships require that you have done a FAFSA application. So just go ahead and get out of the way. Apply for scholarships now and after your first year. So we see this a lot. For some reason, and students, they apply for scholarships like crazy their first year, going into their first year of college, but after their first year of college, they don't, most students don't apply for scholarships again. So continue to apply for scholarships throughout the course of your enrollment. So even after your freshman year, still apply for scholarships for your sophomore year, junior, senior, so on and so forth. Research cost to determine what's best for you. Use our website. Our website here, westga.edu/FinAid, is absolutely incredible. We have a variety of different information on there. So check out our website. Use the University of West Georgia's website. I cannot stress this enough, how important it is to familiarize yourself with the UWG website. So if you have some free time, just visit westga.edu, click every tab, go through different websites, look at different student opportunities, look at Center for Student Involvement, look at all these different, look at the career services, and just go to different websites. Always reference the scoop. I was talking about that earlier. It's westga.edu/scoop. That is where you'll see all dates and deadlines for the university. So that's a very important website. Our students are in general, students do respond very well to that website and they do like it. So just make sure you favorite it. Borrow smart. So we recognize that, your first year may be one of your more expensive years, but after your first year, you may not necessarily need to borrow loans. So don't, if you don't need to. I mean, do look into scholarship opportunities. Always check your University of West Georgia email. I think I talked about this. If you could count how many times I said my.westga or UWG email, it would be quite a few. So if you have the Gmail app on your phone, just go ahead and sync that email to your account. That way you don't have to actually check it. You just get notifications. It's very important. Your professors will communicate with you through that email, and a variety of other channels as well, but it's very important. Um, and then we sent out your Hope Still Mother Scholarship status. And if you have any questions, ask sooner than later. We can't tell you how often there are students that, then 1 week before the fee payment deadline, or a couple of days before, they're asking us a question. If you have a question, go ahead and email us at FINAID and just ask us as soon as possible. The sooner, the better. Promise. If you have any questions, I realize that was a lot of information. And that was really just scratching the surface. In orientation, they do plan to do Zoom sessions where we'll go into even further detail. Um, you can give us a call. That's our phone number there. You can email us, or you can check out our website, all of which will give you a variety of different information. Okay, so we'll go ahead and move into Q&A here. Um, we do have quite a few questions, actually. It's actually good. Um, let's see. Let's see. This question I'll read out loud. It says, I stated that I wanted to be eligible for federal work study on my FAFSA. When do I know where I will be assigned to work, or do I have to apply for jobs on campus? Oh, that's a good question. So, if you're eligible for federal work study, you're not assigned for a position. Um, the What happens is it gives you the ability to apply for positions. So it would be treated just like any other job, where you submit a cover letter, resume, you'd be interviewed, and then if you are offered the position, you will receive an offer, and you will receive the position. So that's a good question. It says, when will the items be checked off on UWG checklists once financial aid is approved? Um, it- Likely, it depends on which items. Um, you can email me, email anonymous. I'm sorry, there's no name there. You can email me. Just email me at whumphri@westga.edu, and we can see what items you're referring to on the checklist, because I'm not quite sure. It says, my FAFSA is verified. When would I receive the awards? Depends on how recent it was verified. So if it was verified in the next within the week, or if it was verified on the 7th, if it was verified after May 7th, then you may not receive the awards. If you've been verified, you should be awarded probably in the next week or so. I would say if you're not awarded by this time next week, or I would say, yeah, if you're not awarded by this time next week, please do reach out to fna@westj.edu and get back to us. Um, Student says, let me see, I was offered some institutional scholarships, but I did not see it in my award letter. What should I do? Mm. Um, those scholarships, they should be on your student account if they were offered to you. You can email we have a scholarships website. I'm sorry, we have a scholarships email. Let me see if I can get that email for you real quickly. We don't use the email often, so that's why I'll have to. Well, just email our general website. You can just email FINAID@westja.edu, stating exactly what you stated here, and we'll check on that for you. It says, regarding our itemized bill, what would you recommend to lower the cost to make it more affordable if we don't think financial aid will help enough? That is a good question. So, um, your student bill, you create your bill. Your bill is impacted by your choices. So depending on which housing or which residence hall you decide to stay in, and depending on which meal plan you decide to stay in, I think those things are the two things where you can reduce costs easiest. Tuition, you can't really reduce costs there, but the only way you can reduce costs with tuition is, just keep in mind that tuition gets expensive when you're taking a mix of online and on-campus classes. So you could reduce your tuition, so your cost for your courses, by taking all on-campus classes. Um, Another way you could reduce your bill is if you're in one of the more expensive residence halls, you could look into possibly a lesser costing residence hall. They're all really nice. Um, and then for the meal plan, you could look into one of the lower options for the meal plan. I can't tell you how many times I've met with families and students um, that have gotten the unlimited meal plan, and they later, discovered that they didn't use it as much as they thought they would. Now, obviously, that does depend on the student and the family. Some students probably do use the unlimited meal plan a lot, um, but that is one option you could use to reduce costs. You could look into the middle of the road meal plan, which is where you can look into one of the lower options for meal planning. Now, for incoming first year students, the you can only choose for a certain amount. You can only choose between a few meal plans, but there are different levels. So I hope that answered your question. It says, "Hi, what other federal loans are there?" Well, if you are a dependent student, not dependent, I'm sorry. If you are a undergraduate student, then generally speaking, those are the only federal loan types, the subsidized and unsubsidized loans. Um, and the Parent Plus loan if the parent is offered. Now if a parent is offered a Parent Plus loan, I should have talked about this, and the parent does apply for the Parent Plus loan, they apply for it because what happens is when they apply for it, their credit goes through a credit check. The credit is either approved or denied for the Parent Plus loan. If their credit for the Parent Plus loan is approved, then the parent can select the specific loan amount that they'd like the student to receive to cover their bill. If the credit for the Parent Plus loan is denied, then the student is offered another loan type, which is called, it's the additional unsubsidized loan. So those are about the only, those are really the federal loan types, at least for undergraduate students. Those are the only federal loan types: subsidized, unsubsidized, Parent Plus, and if the Parent Plus loan is denied, then they're awarded an additional unsubsidized loan. So it just really depends. Hope that answers your question. I think we're really good on time here. Um, I don't see any more questions right now. Um, but if you do have any other questions, I do encourage you to ask us and send us an email as soon as possible. Email us at finaid@westj.edu. The information is on the screen as well. I just want to thank you all for joining. Thank you for attending us. I'm sorry, not attending, but thank you. And if you have any questions, let us know. Y'all have a good one. Have a good weekend. Um, and stay safe.